What is going on, you guys? My name is Daniel and welcome back to the channel where we go over everything mirrorless Canon cameras. In this video we're going to be going over the 50mm RF1.8 STM, and this is a very capable lens, and let's jump into some of the goods, the bads, the sharpness, and some of the photos. Let's go into it. So if you are thinking about picking up this lens, don't forget to go and check out the link to purchase this on Amazon down below. It really helps out the channel. So thank you for checking that out. The lens, although being very capable, it is also very cheap. And for a cheap price point, you just can't get everything. So what are you sacrificing for the small capacity and the price point that this lens comes in at? Well, the very first thing that you'll notice, just like the EF glass, is that there is vignetting around it. I wish this is one of the things that they would have changed and actually fixed, but they didn't. Most people add vignetting anyways, and it's easy to pull out in post, but nonetheless it is still there. And that leads us to our next thing. This lens is very, very soft at 1.8, which is kind of the purpose of having a 1.8 lens, so you can have that blown out background. The overall sharpness is very, very soft, and it only focuses in a small area in the very center. The build quality is an upgrade from the EF version, however it does not have any of the weather sealing that comes with many of the other RF lenses. It does, however, have a coupling that is made of metal, so that's a plus. It does come with an STM motor in it to get focus, and it does kind of struggle in some situations. I have a video over here where I was trying to take photos of our dog, and it just wasn't keeping up while the dog was moving like the other lenses did. It was kind of a tricky situation, and for the most part it does do the job, but it makes it a much more casual lens. While I was able to get some wonderful photos, and the addition of having a very close range that this lens can shoot at really does help to create some nice bokeh, it does, however, struggle in some situations. And I did get photos that I enjoyed out of it, but it was more of a struggle to get those and kind of like cherry pick the best ones. The photos and the bokeh do have problems, as it does have a harsh transition that kind of looks a little muddy as it goes from the bokeh area to the sharp area and back into the bokeh area. As well, the overall creaminess of the bokeh isn't quite what you'd get out of a more expensive lens, which is, once again, it's a $200 lens, so you can't expect everything. It is very good for just getting up and going and having a small package. Look how small that is. It's perfect for just carrying around in a bag, whereas having a much larger lens is not as favorable to doing something like that. My biggest complaint with some of these photos that I took was that they just looked very iPhone-y, even though they did have the background blur, where everything kind of has the harsh edge to it and just kind of flat feel, even if there was bokeh involved that was very nice. Everything that is better on the RF 50mm 1.8 STM than the EF version, and it's upgraded quite a bit. For starters, let's do with the build quality. The build quality is significantly better than the all-plastic EF version. It has a metal coupling here for better long-term use and better coupling in general. It, however, does not have any of the weather sealing around it. It also has a very nice, almost not aromatic, but like space age looking matte finish to the outside of it that's a much better plastic than the former. It does not come with a focus ring, which is alright because it has a switch on the side for focus, which you can use the control ring for, or you can set the control ring to just be the control ring. You have to switch it over into manual inside the camera, but this reduces the amount of space that it takes. This lens is almost half as much as what I remember the EF versions being. Not to mention, when you adapted the EF version onto the EOS R platform and the RF mount, you would have to have the adapter and then the lens, so it almost felt like having a much larger, like it really was almost twice the size of what it needed to be, and this fixes that problem. Now, when I was shooting with the EF 50mm 1.8, I would often run into the problem of chromatic aberration, and what this is in general is as light bends around objects, it will hit the lens or it will hit the lens and then the sensor at different speeds than the rest of the photons in the image, creating a green or a purple or sometimes yellow around the outside of the edges of the subjects and trees and whatever it was. And this version of the RF 50mm 1.8 has fixed almost all of those problems. If you really push this lens, you will find them, but you can do that with most lenses despite their cost. The motor on this is much quieter than the EF and much more precise, as the EF I could not use it for video with a mic mounted on top. However, this one I do feel comfortable doing that with. As well, the focusing distance on this RF 50mm is a lot better and a lot closer. So just by virtue of shooting closer to your objects, you can make it feel like it has a lot more bokeh and a lot smaller focused area. For a package of $200, this is a very good go walk around, be very casual with lens, and it fulfills that purpose very well. Lens is a very compact, small, and if you can see in comparison to one of these lenses, it is a very like light, small lens. It's very good for just stuffing in a bag, taking to wherever you're going on a hike, casual photos, if you're going to the cafe and you don't want to have a massive lens because it's just not that serious for your own uses. This is the perfect lens for that. It makes carrying around the camera feel much more touristy than professional, which can be very nice on your wrists, and if you have it strung around your neck for a hike, then on your neck. The 50mm is a wonderful focal length that will get pretty much everything that you want to get done. You can do a little bit wider with the 50mm, and you can do portraits with the 50mm. As well as everybody knows, this is about the focal length that your eyes see at. This lens really works for video better than photography, if you ask me, and I think this is a perfect studio lens for a beginning channel that plans on upgrading later into better gear. This is good for any type of casual video. It will get the job done, and it's a good all-around focal length. The motor inside of it isn't too loud, so as long as you have a good mic on the top, you won't end up hearing this lens. I will give this lens a 50-50 on portraits, as it will get the 1.8 look that you're looking for, but it does come with some of the drawbacks of being a cheaper, more compact lens. I find that sometimes they look a little iPhone-y even though the background is blown out, and the transition from the bokeh area to the sharp areas of the picture can be a little bit more jagged than what I would like it to be. We'll be comparing the sharpness of the 50mm to the notorious 28-70 f2 for its sharpness, the similar class 35mm 1.8, and the incredibly sharp 50mm 1.2. Now, obviously, these are not at all the same price point, the same class, or anything, but I just want to show you the sharpness difference, because if I just show you the sharpness of this lens, it doesn't really give a solid comparison to anything. So let's look at first, I've taken a picture of this carpet right here, and we're going to show you how it looks. For sharpness, I have gone and done some stuff in Photoshop to show you exactly where the sharp bits are in this photo. Now, as you can see, the f2 at this 28-70 has sharpness a little bit deeper than the other ones because it is not a prime lens. And then it also has this really sharp area in the center that goes to almost the edges, and it has a little bit of softness on the far sides. But for the most part, this is sharp all the way through. This right here is the RF 35 1.8, and as you can see, the sharpness goes through a lot more through this one. It is also a different set. It is at 35mm rather than 50, but it is sharp almost all the way through, with it only dropping off significantly at the edges. This one right here is the 50mm 1.2 at f1.8. As you can see, the line comes right through here, and it is the sharpest through almost the entirety edge to edge on this lens, where it only ever so slightly drops off at the very edges. and it is incredibly sharp. As you can see, there's so much more edges right there where this line goes, and that literally goes from edge to edge on this lens. And here is the exact same things for the 50mm RF 1.8. As you can see, it is incredibly soft at wide open 1.8, which is pretty much the purpose for using this. The only point in this lens that is sharp is the exact center of this lens. There is almost no sharpness towards the bottoms and the bokeh area or the edges of this lens. I would say only the inside 35% of this lens is as sharp as it should be. So this is just something to be aware of for anyone that's going to be recomposing their images from the center of this lens. Now, while this might seem absolutely terrible, and in a way it is, you have to remember that this is only a $200 lens, and it is a much more casual walk around, do beginner channel YouTube videography work with it. It does its job for what it is, but you should be aware of the limitations when it comes to sharpness on this lens. So if you are thinking about picking up this lens, don't forget to go and check out the link to purchase this on Amazon down below. It really helps out the channel. So thank you for checking that out. So my name is Daniel, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss out on anything mirrorless Canon cameras. Thank you so much for watching.